Hello students, in the previous video of the endocrine system we have learnt about the differences between the exocrine gland followed by endocrine gland and the characteristics of hormones. Now let us start learning the each and every thyroid gland in detail. Here we are going to learn under certain captions such as location followed by functions and the disorders caused due to hypo and hyper secretion of the hormones. To begin with, children, let us start with the thyroid gland. If you observe the diagram drawn here, children, recall in the last academic year you people have learnt about the respiratory system in man. So here we find the voice box, which is also known as a larynx, which is found at the opening of the windpipe. So here you can find the windpipe, which is also known as a trachea. Children, here you can find a butterfly shaped structure. So this butterfly shaped structure is nothing but the thyroid gland. Okay. So what is the shape of the thyroid gland? It looks like a butterfly. What is the location of the thyroid gland? Children, thyroid gland is situated in front of the neck. It is situated in front of the neck. Just below the larynx. Children, whenever they ask you about the locations, you have to write the locations as given in the textbook. So, what is the location of the thyroid gland? The thyroid gland is situated in front of the neck. Children, observe carefully. You have to write the word front of the neck. Right, because even we find the neck on either sides or even at the back. So you have to be very clear that you have to mention it is found in front of the neck, just below the larynx. If you just write in front of the neck, below the larynx, again you will be losing mark. You have to write it as just below the larynx. So thyroid is a butterfly shaped endocrine gland situated in front of the neck, just below the larynx on the trachea. Children, the thyroid gland has two lobes. So you can see this is number one and this is the second one. So it has two lobes, one onto the left side, the other one to the right side. But if you observe carefully, both the lobes are connected to each other. Both the parts are connected to each other by a narrow tube. So this narrow tube, which connects both the lobes of the thyroid gland, is known as a narrow tube of isthmus. It is known as isthmus, which connects the lobes of the thyroid gland. Let us study about the functions of the thyroid gland. Before we could learn about the functions, let us learn about the hormones secreted by the thyroid gland. In fact, thyroid secretes two hormones. The first one is known as thyroxine and the second one is the calcitonin. As per the syllabus, we are supposed to learn only the thyroxine but not the calcitonin. So thus, the thyroid gland secretes two hormones known as thyroxine followed by calcitonin. Children, let us learn about the functions of thyroxine. The first function of the thyroxine helps in basal metabolic rate, or you can say, children, it regulates the basal metabolic rate, or in a short form we call it as a BMR. Fine. So what is the first function of thyroxine? Thyroxine regulates the basal metabolic rate. So what is the meaning of basal metabolic rate? It is nothing but the cellular respiration that occurs in the cells when the body that is when the body is at rest. So what is the meaning of basal metabolic rate? It is nothing but the cellular respiration that occurs in the cells when the body is at rest, which is nothing but glucose undergoes oxidation, releasing energy in the form of ATP, followed by liberation of carbon dioxide, water and energy in the form of ATP when the body is at rest. Now, when I use the word regulates, it means it refers to both the ways. It means it may refer to increase in the metabolic rate, or you can say it as decrease in the metabolic rate. So whenever there is a more secretion of thyroxine, it increases the basal metabolic rate. When there is a less secretion of thyroxine, it leads to decrease in the metabolic rate. So generally you can say it as it regulates the basal metabolic rate. So whenever they ask you about the function of thyroxine, children, you have to write the word regulates the basal metabolic rate, or you can just write the word it regulates the cellular respiration in the cells. Okay, now we know that when the cellular respiration occurs, there is a liberation of heat energy. There is a liberation of heat energy which maintains our body temperature. So what is the second function of thyroxine? The thyroxine regulates our body temperature. It regulates our body temperature. Fine. Along with that, thyroxine helps in the mental development of the person. So what is the meaning of mental development of the person? We know that, children, as we are growing, as the years pass by, from your lower class to the higher classes, your ability of the brain increases, right? So this increase in the ability of your brain, it is because of increase in the number of synapses, increase in the number of myelin sheath, or increase in the number of dendrites, due to which there is a improvement in your mental ability, right? So this improvement in the mental ability is actually brought about by the thyroxine. Fine, children. So thus you can say that the thyroxine helps in improving our mental development, or it helps in the mental development of the person. Followed by, even thyroxine helps in the ossification of bones. So what is the meaning of ossification of bones? It is nothing but it promotes, or you can say it regulates the increase in the size of the bones, or it enables in the deposition of the bone cells into our bones, which help in the increasing in the length of these bones. So we use a word ossification of bones is nothing but deposition of calcium and phosphorus into our bone, thereby increasing in the size of the bones. Fine. So along with these functions, even thyroxine helps in general growth of the body. Children, so whenever you are writing the growth, you have to be very clear. You have to write about general growth of the body. So what is the meaning of general growth of the body? It refers to increase in the height, increase in the weight, or increase in the number of cells. So it refers to increase in the height of the body, increase in the weight of the body, or elongation of these bones, right? So it refers to the growth of the entire body, referring to height and weight of the body. So thus you can say that these are the different functions of the thyroxine. Children, you have to learn all the functions, because anything can be expected for the objective type, and whenever you are writing the functions, you have to be very clear. So let me just revise it once again. So the first function of thyroxine, it helps in regulating the basal metabolic rate. That is, when the body is at rest, it undergoes cellular respiration, which is regulated by the thyroxine. Followed by, it regulates the body temperature. So you have to use this word regulation or regulates. It also helps in promoting the mental development of the person or in a child. That is nothing but improving our IQ or intelligent quotient of the person. It also helps in ossification of the bones. That is a deposition of new bone cells or formation of a new bone cells in the bones. And it also regulates the general growth of the body, which is nothing but increase in height and weight of the body. And you have to use the word general growth of the body. When you are referring to the growth, you have to use the word general growth of the body. So thus, these are few functions of the thyroxine. Children, now let us learn about certain disorders which are associated with thyroid gland when it is secreted either in lesser quantity or in the more quantity. So let us study about the consequences related with the under secretion or over secretion of thyroxine. Yes. So let us start with the disorders. that occur in the human beings due to under secretion or less secretion, also known as a hyposecretion of thyroxine, or what do we call it as a hypothyroidism. Yes, children, observe the diagram. Here you can find a lady who has a disorder due to the under secretion of a thyroxine. So you can find a particular organ in the neck has swollen. It is nothing but in the neck region we find the thyroid gland. The thyroid gland which has swollen, right? So this condition or this disorder we call it as a simple goiter. Children, so what do we call this condition as? This condition is known as simple goiter. So what happens in the simple goiter? There is a enlargement of the thyroid gland. There is an enlargement of the thyroid gland, right? So due to which, what is the first symptom? You will find there is a swelling in the neck region. Right? So in case of a simple goiter, one can find there is a swelling in the neck region, and this swelling in the neck region due to the thyroid gland which has increased in its size abnormally. Children, this disorder is more common among the people residing in the hilly regions. This can be expected as one of the give reason why one finds most of the people in the hilly region suffering from simple goiter. Children, we know that iodine is an essential element one has to include in his diet. Probably, children, you would have watched certain advertisements of the salts, and if you observe that advertisement, they would have mentioned the word as iodized salt. In the sense, in that salt, they would have added iodine, which is essential to our body. Children, what is the role of iodine? Iodine is an important element. It is an essential element required to synthesize the hormone that is a thyroxine, or you can say that it is one of the component required for the synthesis of thyroxine in our thyroid gland. So, if there is a deficiency of iodine in one's body, if there is a lack of iodine in one's body, it may lead to the swelling of thyroid gland, or you can say the enlargement of thyroid gland occurs. So you may find the thyroid gland which is enlarging, abnormally because there is a lack of iodine provided to his thyroid gland. Right? So just now I said it is more common in the people residing in the hilly regions. It's because we know that as they are residing in the hilly region, okay, as it rains, most of the time there is a erosion of soil, right? So as there is a erosion of soil, even there is a removal of salts from the soil. So the crops which are grown in that soil lack iodine. Hence, the people who consume those crops also have a deficiency of iodine, which leads to the simple goiter. Yes, children. So, whenever they ask you the give reason, you have to be very clear. It is more common among the people residing on the hilly stations or hilly regions. It is because the crops grown in that soil lacks iodine, due to which the consumption of iodine is less in their body, and as the iodine is an essential element required to synthesize thyroxine, it leads to the enlargement of thyroid gland. Hence, they suffer from simple goiter. Fine, children? Yes. So, what is the reason for the simple goiter? It is due to hyposecretion of thyroxine. Symptoms: it leads to swelling in the neck or enlargement of the thyroid gland, right? And what is the reason for the enlargement? Because there is a deficiency of iodine in their body, which leads to enlargement. And what is the role of iodine? Iodine is required to synthesize thyroxine in the thyroid gland. Now let us learn about one more disorder related with hypothyroidism. Here, children, you can observe this child suffering from a disorder, and this disorder is known as cretinism. Cretinism is one of the disorder due to under secretion of thyroxine, which is more common in children, or you can say it affects the children. So, what are the disorders or the symptoms that we find when a child is suffering from a cretinism? Children, here we know that we have learnt about the functions of thyroxine. It leads to the one of the symptom known as a dwarfism. Children, if you remember, I taught you that thyroxine helps in the ossification of bones, that is, increase in the size of the bones. I said it also helps in the general growth of the body, that is, increase in the height of the person. Now, since there is a under secretion of thyroxine, since there is a less secretion of a thyroxine, the ossification of bones is affected, general growth of the body is affected, due to which the child starts suffering from a condition known as a dwarfism. In this condition, it affects the height of the person. The child remains shorter, which is different from the other family members, right? So we call this condition as a dwarfism, which is nothing but the height of the person is affected, there is retarded height, or the ossification of bones is not regulated properly, which leads to dwarfism. Along with that, children, it also leads to mental retardation. Children, as there is no sufficient secretion of thyroxine, even it affects the mental ability of that particular child. So what do we call it as a mental retardation? So this child, though being in 5th standard, having a age of around 10 years, the child may have a IQ like the 3rd standard child. So it means there is a retardation in its mental ability due to the under secretion of thyroxine. So what is the cause for the cretinism? It is occurring due to under secretion of thyroxine, and it is affecting only the children but not the adults. So what are the symptoms of cretinism? It leads to dwarfism followed by mental retardation. Children, you have to learn these symptoms thoroughly. Fine. The next disorder which affects the adults, known as a myxedema. Myxedema is also one more disorder affecting the adults. It is due to under secretion of the thyroxine, due to hypothyroidism, or due to the under secretion of the thyroxine. Adults suffer from a condition known as a myxedema. Children, within the word you have a clue for one of the symptom. If you remember the word oedema, oedema is nothing but swelling. So if you observe this picture, what are the certain symptoms of myxedema? There is a swelling of face and hands. So what is one of the symptom of the myxedema? Due to the under secretion of a thyroxine in the adults, it results into a condition known as a myxedema. In that condition, you can find there is a swelling of the face followed by hands due to the accumulation of water in the face followed by hands. Along with that, the person becomes more sluggish. Right, children? So what is the meaning of more sluggish? Sluggish means he becomes more inactive, or you can say the movement of the body is very, very slow. It is referring to the movement of the body which is very slow, or you can say the person becomes inactive because the thyroid gland is not functioning properly. There is an under secretion of thyroxine. Children, in case of a cretinism, children suffer from cretinism due to one of the disorder. What do we call it as a atrophy? We call it as a atrophy, or we name it as a early atrophy. What is the meaning of atrophy? When the thyroid gland undergoes degeneration. Atrophy means it is the degeneration. What is the meaning of degeneration? The cells or the tissue of the thyroid gland, when they start breaking down, we call it as a degeneration. So when the tissue of the thyroid gland starts breaking down, it cannot secrete thyroxine, which leads to a condition known as a cretinism. So we call this condition as early atrophy. Atrophy means degeneration of the thyroid gland, or what do we call it as a breaking of the tissues in the thyroid gland, which leads to a disorder known as a cretinism, which affects only the children. Fine, children. So again, in the myxedema, you have to write two symptoms, that is swelling of face and hands, followed by the person becomes very sluggish. Right? So thus, these are the three disorders which are associated with under secretion of a thyroxine in a person. Now, let us study about one of the disorder which affects the human beings due to over secretion of thyroxine. Over secretion of thyroxine, or we name it as a hyperthyroidism. Children, the disorder occurring due to over secretion of thyroxine, we name it as a Exophthalmic Goiter. Children, how do we pronounce this word? Exophthalmic Goiter. So here in the picture, you can find a person suffering from exophthalmic goiter. So again, in the word you can find goiter word. So it means there is a swelling in the neck region. There is a swelling in the neck region. Children, along with that, if you look at the word X means outside, ophthalmologist. So the eye specialist is known as a ophthalmologist. So it is something related with the eyes. If you observe carefully here, the person has a protruding eyes. The person has the protruding eyes. So what are the two symptoms of exophthalmic goiter? We can say that a person has a swelling in the neck, that is a goiter, followed by he has a exophthalmic, that is protruding eyes. Right? Along with this symptom, since there is a over secretion of thyroxine, we know that one of the function of thyroxine is to regulate our cellular respiration. So in the sense, it increases the metabolic rate. Children, it increases the metabolism, or the cellular respiration rate is increased in the body because of the over secretion of thyroxine. So what is the second symptom of exophthalmic goiter? It increases the metabolism, or it increases the basal metabolic rate. Along with that, we know that it also leads to increase in the heartbeat. So there is a high rate of the heartbeat, right? So what do we call it as? It increases the heartbeat. As there is a increase in the heartbeat, it also increases the metabolic rate. Along with that, you can find there is a shortness in the breathing cycle. In the sense, the inspiration followed by the expiration, the inhalation of air, the exhalation of air occurs rapidly. It occurs rapidly. What do we call it as? There is a shortness in the breath. So there is a quick inhalation of the air. There is a quick exhalation of the air. So which leads to shortness in the breath of that person. Children, along with that, the person also becomes restless. The person also attains the restlessness. So these are the few symptoms related with exophthalmic goiter. So what is the cause for the exophthalmic goiter? It is due to oversecretion of thyroxine. So what are the symptoms of exophthalmic goiter? It leads to protruding eyes, swelling in the neck, that is formation of goiter in the neck, and then increases the metabolic rate, increases the heartbeat. There is a shortness in the breath, that is a shortness of the inhalation followed by exhalation, and the person becomes restless. So this is one of the disorder occurring in a person due to oversecretion of thyroxine. Children, with this we complete the thyroid gland. So whenever you learn any endocrine gland, you have to learn under certain captions. That is, first location, followed by the hormones secreted by that particular gland, and then the function, and after the functions you have to learn about the disorders which are associated with undersecretion and oversecretion of those hormones. Children, you have to learn after watching this video then and there. That makes your learning easier. You can't, skip any part of the lesson saying that you will learn later on, because you can expect any concept either in section A or in section B. So don't be under impression that if you just learn the functions, fine, you can score the marks. No. Every part of the concept what I am teaching you have to learn thoroughly. Fine, children. So hope you are safe at home. Learn the words also as I have taught in the video. Certain keywords what I have underlined or I have used the red ink. Okay. So learn it as I have taught. Children, thank you.